Hi guys, welcome to the channel again. In today's video we are going to dual boot Arch Linux with Windows 10 on a legacy MBR system. So let's dive right into it. So here we are on the terminal. I'm logged in now via SSH so that you can see better the fonts here. So the first thing I'm going to do is to check if I have an IP. So I'll type in IP space A and hit enter. So this is through VirtualBox and I'm connected here via Ethernet cable, so I have an IP there. If you are now on your computer and you have Wi-Fi, you'll type in now wifi-menu. When you hit enter, you will be able to select your network, enter the password, and you will have an IP as well. So now that we have an IP, we can synchronize the time to the internet. So we'll type in time date ctl space set ntp true and hit enter. So clean up the terminal and we move to the disk partitioning. But before we do this, let me type in lsblk and just look here. We have two disks in the system, one SDA, which has two partitions, and SDB, which is an empty disk. So SDA is the disk where Windows is installed. We have a SDA1 partition there of about 580 megabytes. This is the Windows reserve partition. And then we have SDA2 where Windows is actually installed. We have then SDB, and this is where we will install Arch Linux. So to partition the disk in this case, I will use cfdisk. So I'll type in cfdisk and then the device name. So in my case, /dev/sdb and hit enter. So I want to create three partitions here. I want to create a boot partition, a swap partition, and a root partition. So I'll just hit new. And the first thing I'm going to create the boot partition. So I'll type in 500M, just make it 500 megabytes and hit enter. And yes, it's a primary, so just hit enter. And I'll move to the left here and make it bootable and hit enter. Now I'll move down to the free space and hit enter. Next, I create the swap, so I delete here. And for the swap, I will give 4 gigabytes and hit enter. It's a primary, yes. Then I'll move to write to type, hit enter, and select Linux swap here for the list and hit enter. Now I'll move down again to free space and hit enter. And partition size, I'll accept here the defaults because I want the root partition to be the remainder of the disk, and I'll just hit enter. It's a primary yes, so I'll hit enter. And there you go. Now we need the final step, which is to write the changes to the disk. So I'll move to the right here and hit write. And the program asks to confirm, so I'll type in yes and hit enter. And now the partitions have been written on the disk. So we can move to the left to quit and hit enter. And I'll clean up the terminal and type in again lsblk. And as you can see, now we have SDB1, SDB2, and SDB3. So now we created the partitions. We need to now format them. We need to format actually SDB1 and SDB3. SDB2 is a swap partition. We don't need to format that. So let's begin with SDB1. So we'll type in mkfs.ext4. This is not a EFI system, so the boot partition can be an ext4 /dev/SDB1 and hit enter. So I see this message here because I partitioned already the disk before. You might not see this message. If you see it, just type yes and hit enter. And we'll do the same for SDB3. So I'll pull up the last command with the up arrow and replace the 1 with the 3 and hit enter. And again, you might not see this question here. If you do see, just type yes and hit enter. And there you go. I'll clean up the terminal by hitting Ctrl L. And I'll type in again lsblk to have the partition's name in front of me. And let's make the swap. So we'll type in mkswap, then /dev/sdb2 and hit enter. Then we need to activate it. So we'll type in swap on /dev/sdb2 and hit enter. There you go. So we partitioned the disk, we formatted the partitions, and now we need to mount them. So the first thing we need to do is to mount SDB3 where Arch is going to be installed, and this is going to be installed into the mount directory. So we'll type in mount /dev/sdb3 space /mount and hit enter. So we don't need to mount SDB1 and SDB2 anyway, so that means we can proceed to the next point, which is installing the base system. And let me clean up the terminal. So we'll type in pacstrap /mount. This is where the Arch install is. And the packages are base, Linux, Linux-firmware, and then an editor, in my case, Nano. And when you're ready, you just hit enter. So it's going to take a moment to download and install the packages, and I'll be back when it's done. So there you go, the packages are installed. So I'll clean up the terminal. And now we can generate the fstab file where all our mount points are. So we'll type in gen fstab /mount, and then the 2 times the major than sign, and then /mount /etc /fstab, and hit enter. So now we can move into the installation and leave the installer by typing in arch-root /mount, and hit enter. And as you can see, we are now into the installation. The login prompt changed. So I'll clean up the terminal and we can move to the next step. So let's type in ln-sf/user/share/zone-info/Europe in my case, and /Zurich in my case. You will replace this accordingly to your position. Then space, then /etc/local time, and hit enter. Now that we provided the locale time, we can synchronize the hardware clock to the system clock. So we'll type in hwclock space --sys2hc, so system to hardware clock, and hit enter. Now we need to edit the locale file. So we'll type in nano /etc/locale.gen, and we'll scroll down to the locale we are looking for. In my case, it's English US. And we have 2 instances here. We'll select the first one, which is UTF-8, and uncomment this line by deleting the hashtag, and then hit Ctrl-O and enter to save the file, and Ctrl-X to exit the editor. There you go. Now we can generate the locales by typing in locale-gen and hit enter. And next we can proceed to the configuration file. So we'll type in nano /etc/locale.conf and hit enter, and we'll put in the string lang = en_us.utf-8, and then again Ctrl-O and enter to save the file, and Ctrl-X to exit the editor. So now we can proceed to the host name. So we'll type in nano /etc/hostname and hit enter. You can select the name of your machine here. In my case, I'll just choose Arch, and then I hit Ctrl-O and enter to save the file, and Ctrl-X to exit the editor. Now we need to edit also the hosts file. So we'll type in nano /etc/hosts and hit enter. And we'll fill up here with these strings 127.0.0.1 tab localhost. Then to the next line, it's : 1 tab localhost again. And in the last line, we type in 127.0.1.1 tab, and then our host name. So in my case, arch.local domain, then a tab again, and then again the host name. So in my case, Arch. You replace this accordingly. Then again, Ctrl-O and enter to save the file, and Ctrl-X to exit the editor. Now we can move to the root password. So we'll type in passwd and hit enter, and select our new password and retype it. So now we can move into installing the GRUB bootloader and some other packages. So we'll type in pacman-s. So the first package is GRUB, our bootloader. The next one is Network Manager. And then we have also Network-Manager-Applet. We have also Dialog. We'll also install wireless tools. I'm not going to need this, but you probably will. Then we have also WPA_supplicant. We have OS Prober. This is important because it will probe for Windows. Then we have mtools. We have DOS, FS tools. And then 2 development packages are base-devil and Linux headers. So take your time to write the packages down or pause the video if you need to. And when you're ready, you just hit enter. Accept the defaults by hitting enter. And accept the defaults again by hitting enter and proceed with the installation. Again, it's going to take a moment to install everything, so I'll be back when it's done. So there you go, the packages are installed. So let me clean up the terminal. Now we can move to installing GRUB. So this is a very important point because it depends also how your machine is configured. But let's begin by typing in grub-install, then space, -- target equal, this is a MBR system, so it's going to be i386-pc. And then we'll put in the device name, not the partition name, /dev. So if in your BIOS you have the option to boot from a different disk than the standard one, you can put here the disk accordingly. So for example, if you can boot in SDB, you would put here now SDB. If you cannot do that, you can put SDA, that's fine. We'll configure GRUB by booting from the Windows MBR. In my case, I choose SDA because I'm able to boot only from the first disk. And when I'm ready, just hit enter. Before we can create the GRUB configuration file, we'll need to mount Windows into Linux. So to do this, we need to create a directory for Windows. So let's type in mkdir for make directory. And the Windows directory is going to be under the mount directory, so /mount, and then /Windows 10 in my case. You can call it whatever you want to. Then once we have done the directory, if we type in lsblk, you remember SDA2 was the partition where Windows is installed. So we need to mount SDA2 into this new Windows 10 directory. And to do this, we'll type in mount /dev/SDA2 space /mount /Windows 10 and hit enter. It might take a moment to make the mount point here. So now we can generate the GRUB configuration file by typing in grub mkconfig -o, then /boot /grub cfg and hit enter. Now when I hit enter, watch the lines that appear for the configuration file, and we will probably see that Windows is not in there, so Windows is not recognized. It might be different in your installation. If it doesn't come out to you as well, we need to install an extra package. So I'll clean up the terminal and I'll type in pacman -s ntfs-3g and hit enter. Proceed with installation by hitting enter. There you go. Then I'll clean up the terminal. Now we need to unmount first the Windows 10 partition and remount it again. So we'll type in umount /mount /Windows 10 and hit enter. And now we mount it again by typing in mount /dev/SDA2 /mount /Windows 10. We get a fatal error here. That's fine. We can ignore this for now. And then we make again a GRUB configuration file by typing in grub-mkconfig -o and then /boot /grub.cfg and hit enter. And as you can see now, Windows 10 is found and it will be added on the bootloader. So the base install is now done. So we can type in exit to return to the installer. Now we need to unmount the partitions by typing in umount -a and hit enter. We'll get some errors here. That's fine. We don't need to worry about this. And now we can reboot the system. And if everything went well, you will be greeted by the bootloader where you can select to boot Arch or Windows 10. So go ahead, reboot the machine, boot again into Arch so that we can finish the installation. I'll type in reboot and I'll see you back in the terminal when I'm rebooted. So the installation was successful. I was able to see the GRUB bootloader where I saw the Arch install and Windows 10. So now I booted back into the root user here. And the first thing we need to do now is to activate the internet so that we can proceed with the installation. So to do this, we'll type in systemctl start network manager with capital N and capital M and hit enter. Now again, in VirtualBox here, I have a cable. So if I type in IP space A, you see I have already an IP which ends in 162. If you don't have an Ethernet cable now or you have Wi-Fi, you will type in now NMTUI, scroll down to activate a connection, And here you'll see a list of your Wi-Fi networks. You can select one, enter your password, and you'll be connected to the internet. Now I'll log out from here and go back to the terminal. Now the last step is also to enable Network Manager so that the next time it's going to be started automatically. And to do this, we'll type in systemctl enable Network Manager. Again with capital N and capital M, and hit enter. There you go. I'll clean up the terminal. And the next step would be to create a new user. So we'll type in user add -m and then -G for a group. That's going to be the wheel group. So I'll type in wheel and then the username, in my case, Hermano, and hit enter. Now I need to give a password to the user. So we'll type in passwd and then the name. So Hermano in my case, and type the new password and retype it again. And I'll clean up the terminal. Next, we need to give Hermano sudo powers. So for this, we'll type in editor, all capital letters, equal nano, and then by sudo, the command, and then hit enter. Now we'll scroll down here until we find the wheel group. And we have two of those. We need to be careful to select the first one and delete the hashtag. That means everybody in the wheel group will have sudo powers. And then hit Ctrl O and enter to save the file and Ctrl X to exit the editor. So we can move on to the next step, which is installing the graphics driver. Well, in my case, I'm on VirtualBox here, so I don't need to actually do anything specific. But if you have an Intel card, for example, you will type in now pacman-S xf86-video-intel and hit enter, and then you'll proceed with the installation. If you have an AMD card, you will replace Intel with AMD GPU and proceed with installation. And if you have an NVIDIA card, you will replace the whole package here with two packages, NVIDIA and NVIDIA-utils, and proceed with the installation. Once the graphics driver are installed, we can proceed by installing the display server. In my case, it's going to be Xorg. So I'll type in pacman-S and then Xorg and hit enter. Accept the defaults by hitting enter and proceed with the installation by hitting enter. There you go, the packages are installed, so I'll clean up the terminal. And now we can proceed to install the display manager. So for this, we'll type in pacman-S. There are several display managers, as you probably know already. In my case here, I want to install GNOME and keep it simple. So the display manager for GNOME is GDM. If you want to install KDE, in this case, you would install SDDM as a display manager. But in my case, I'm just going to ahead and install GDM and hit enter. And hit enter to accept and proceed with the installation. It's going to take a second here to download and install everything. There you go. And so I'll clean up the terminal. And we need now to enable the display manager by typing in systemctl enable. In my case, GDM. If you installed SDDM, you will replace here with SDDM and hit enter, so that the display manager is going to be started automatically when we reboot the system. Last but not least, we can install the desktop environment. So let's type in pacman-S. So I want to install actually GNOME, so I could type in now GNOME and GNOME Extra for extra packages. If you want to install KDE, you will replace this with Plasma. This would be your first choice. Then you have also KDE-applications for some extra applications for KDE. And if you want to have user directories like photos, videos in KDE, you will need to install also xdg-user-dirs. And if you plan to update your packages from the Discover Software Center, you need to install also package kit-qt5. These are the 4 packages. But I want to install GNOME, so I'll delete this and type in GNOME and GNOME-extra. And hit enter, accept the defaults by hitting enter. And again, the defaults by hitting enter, one more time, and then hit enter to proceed with the installation. So it's going to take a moment to download and install everything, and I'll be back when it's done. So there you go, the packages are installed. So now we can reboot the machine and we will be able to boot into Arch with our GNOME environment. So I'll type in reboot and I'll see you back in GNOME in a second. And there you go, we are now in the GNOME desktop environment, so everything worked well. So let me first pull up the terminal, and let's gonna check for updates here quick. I maximize this window here and increase the font size, and we'll type in sudo pacman-syyuu to update the database and the packages. Enter my password and hit enter. So there's nothing to do, the system is up to date, so everything worked well. So this is the install of Arch Linux with Windows 10 on a legacy system, MBR system. Now, if you want to remove Arch Linux and also remove GRUB, we'll need to follow a few steps here. So let me reboot into Windows, and I'll show you how to do this. So we are now in Windows 10, and I'm going to right-click here on the Start menu and go to Disk Management. So we have our two disks here. This is where Windows is installed. We have our C partition where we are logged in right now. And this is the Arch Linux disk. You remember we did a 500 megabytes bootable partition. We have our swap partition here and our main Linux partition here. So what we could do right now is simply delete these partitions here and Arch Linux would be gone. Then we can basically reconfigure the disk to be used in Windows or to install another Linux installation if we need to. But there is no option here to remove GRUB. So let me go ahead and delete these partitions here. So I right click on the partition here and click delete volume and hit yes. I'm gonna do the same for the other two. And now we have our disk here. So if I want to use this with Windows, I could just here right click and select new simple volume and then hit next on the wizard, accept the defaults to accept the whole disk and accept also here the letter, that's fine, and hit next. And NTFS is fine for this, so I'll hit next here and click finish to perform the formatting. And now we have a new disk in Windows. However, let's try to reboot now and see if GRUB is still present or not. It's going to exit full screen here and go back into normal window. As you can see, GRUB is still there and he cannot find, of course, his configuration file. So we are stuck in this screen. So if you want to delete GRUB and restore the MBR so that we can boot Windows again, we'll need to have an external USB Windows disk. So we need to basically have our installed media. So let me power down the machine here real quick. And I'm going to go back here in VirtualBox and select here the machine under settings. And for storage here, I'll select the Windows ISO I have. You'll have to do this on your PC as well. If you're not working in VirtualBox, you'll have to do this externally with a USB drive or a DVD. So I'll select my image here, click OK, and then hit Start. And we basically need to boot from the CD or from the USB stick if you have one. So press any key to boot. So I'll press the Enter key. And we need to basically enter here the recovery environment so that we can fix our MBR. There you go. So I'll just select here my keyboard because I don't have a US keyboard right now. So let me scroll up quickly to find my layout and hit next. Now here on this window, you want to repair your computer and we will be presented here with the recovery menu. So I'll hit on troubleshoot. And what I need is the command prompt. So I'll just hit command prompt. And now, in order to restore the MBR so that we can boot into the system, we need to type in boot rec.exe, then /, and then fix capital MBR, and hit enter. The operation completed successfully. Okay, so we'll exit the program by typing in exit, and hit enter. And I'll just turn off my machine now by clicking turn off my PC, because I need to remove the ISO. So I'll go back here to my settings and go to storage, hit the ISO here and remove it, and then hit OK. Now, when I start it up, we will be able to boot in Windows 10 just fine. As you can see, we have the Windows logo. Now the Windows installation is loading and will be ready to start soon. So there you go. As you can see, Windows 10 is now bootable and we successfully removed GRUB from the system. So this is it. This is how to dual boot Arch Linux with Windows 10 on a legacy system. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys, and if you liked it, please click the like button below and subscribe to the channel if you want to be notified of future videos. Subscriptions really helps us out, guys. And if there is anything specific you want me to cover or you have any question, please let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.